Good. This is kind of a strange situation, but I thought maybe it would be easier for people to see in this way of setting up the chairs. Thank you for coming. It's lovely to see everybody here. Most of you, I think, know me. I'm Kate Kasten. And this presentation, as you can see, is all about nature. I want to say that all of the photographs in this presentation were taken within about a, I'd say, roughly 15-mile radius around Oak Knoll. So even though we don't have deserts and oceans and mountains and all those exotic things, there is plenty for us to notice and to enjoy in our own natural environment. I also want to say that I generally don't like to move objects around and sort of stage pictures. I like them to look as the camera sees them. And I say as the camera sees them because I use a lot of close-ups where I get so close my eye would not be able to focus. Or zooms where you see something very far away that your naked eye would just look very tiny. So that's a lot in here. So it's really the camera that's doing all the work. Okay, I'm a little concerned. It seems like when I turn my head, does my voice get low? It's still okay if I'm doing like this? Okay. I'm actually going to stand here once we get started, and we're going to get dark. So I think we're ready to go, Brianna. All right, so if I can find my little clicker. Here we go. Fancy thing. Let's start this show in the morning. Oops. Yeah, not getting it. Yeah, it's called turning it on. Okay, there we go. So let's start in the morning. This is just the dawn sky taken from the spring building art room deck. And that's a really great place to look at the dawn sky here. I understand that you can also see it from the 6th floor of Benton, the big lounge. But that's another nice place to look at the east in the morning. And here is another morning from the very same place. And it always amazes me how much dawn and dusk look alike. You could, you wouldn't be able to tell which it is, but that's the dawn. So the sun comes up, but to me, even more exciting than the sun rising is the moon setting. Now, I take a lot of pictures of skies from my balcony on the 6th floor of Spring, facing west. And this is the moon in the very early morning before sunrise with this wonderful halo against the dark blue early morning sky taken from my balcony. This is another moon. This is actually the same moon. It's another morning. When the light is shining on the trees. And that's the moon setting behind Streb Street. Those are the trees back there. Now, I'm sorry, but I'm getting a little feedback. Are you hearing that? Yeah. What do you recommend, Brianna? Should I stand somewhere else? Test. I'm still hearing her. Yeah, maybe so. She's going to turn it down a little, see what happens. All right, so now, can you see that big pink? That's the moon setting. the old Benton Street Ball that I love so much, right behind it. And those birds are pretty excited by that, I think. Okay. And now the moon this is the harvest moon. No, sorry, that's the supermoon setting in the west. And after the sun rises and the moon sets, then weather comes. I see a lot of weather from my balcony. And as beautiful as this cloud is, I have to say, it looks like there's been a nuclear explosion over Spread Street. More positively, if you ever had any doubt, now you know that Oak Knoll is the pot of gold at the ends of the rainbow. These clouds seem to know exactly where they're headed. And these are called mama clouds, or mammary clouds. I think it's obvious why. And I thought that this storm was aiming to gobble up the blue sky. Or it could be the other way around, the blue sky punching the storm out. And then here comes the rain. And now I better get my camera off the balcony, because here it is. But then, here are clouds that have succeeded in pushing away even a thought of a storm. This is not from my balcony, this is probably on George Street, I'm guessing. And I love how this little sundog refuses to let the clouds upstage it. Can you see that little sundog? The color, when it's really big like this on the wall, isn't quite as wonderful as when you see it on a computer. But anyway, there's a little sundog there. And whereas this little gray cloud is trying its best to upstage the sun. In fact, clouds get up to all kinds of pranks. This one is impersonating a geyser. Here we have a blueberry meringue pie in the sky. This is a big, fluffy labradoodle obediently waiting its owner's command. This is a flagpole and a flag on a windy day. The continental United States. And this cloud is just showing off. It's trying to look like an eccentric tornado. So, what about the creatures in these wonderful days? Now, this creatures section is not going to be about cute baby animals. For that, you can go to YouTube. But I could not resist just this one. This is an English bulldog puppy that escaped a playpen in the front yard of a house on Coulter Street. There are actually 6 of them, incredibly cute. But I don't have much in the way of mammals because they seem to become indignant when you try to take their picture. This chipmunk is shocked at the nerve of me invading its privacy. What do I think I am, Snapchat? And this rabbit imagines it's camouflaged by the shadow, and I can't see it. Anyway, excuse me, instead of puppies and rodents, for creatures, let's start with birds. And in particular, the art of picturesque perching. Birds have the gift of knowing how to perch picturesquely. Try saying that quickly. Perch picturesquely. This goose is a prankster. And this starling is rocking the windblown look. This bird likes to be color coordinated with the tree it perches on. And here is a patriotic cardinal. It saw the white, saw the blue, and decided to add the missing element. This sparrow found the shiniest surface it could to show off its noble profile. Now, I had never seen a bluebird, and finally, a couple of years ago, I saw one at last. And as an added bonus, it was perching picturesquely. So I call it the bluebird of happiness. Do you remember that song?
'Cause life is sweet, tender and complete, when you find the bluebird of happiness. You will find perfect peace of mind when you find the bluebird of happiness.
So that was Jimmy Durante, in case you didn't recognize him. So that's the bluebird of happiness, and this is the blackbird of raucousness. This sparrow has been doing some hard drinking at the Long Branch Saloon in the Central Building courtyard, and it's waiting for its designated driver. I think they call this hairdo a mullet. This blue heron cannot figure out why, when it looks in the mirror, it looks like a noodle. This bird just wanted to be in the slideshow. Now, these next three birds illustrate the meaning of pleasantly plump. Okay, so for some reason, certain species of birds are conformists. They like to line up. Of course, geese are famous for this. These gulls are standing in line for tickets to see a family-friendly G-rated movie called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Someone is late as usual. While these pelicans are in a different line for tickets to see a hilarious comedy, an old Hitchcock film called The Birds. I'd like to know what's happening off stage here. And here. Now, you cannot really do birds justice without thinking about romance. Remember the birds and the bees? So here are the birds. This goose has never heard the expression "three's a crowd." And the swans are too gracious to mention it. These geese met online, and they were attracted by their shared interest in like to take long walks in the country. Now these geese have taken it up a notch. This may be where we got the expression necking. And these two are seriously thinking about taking the next step and moving in together. They're looking out for an apartment, not realizing that they're standing on top of an apartment building. So then from courtship comes family life. This gosling is getting a severe tongue lashing. It stalks off in a sulk, answering the question, why did the gosling cross the road? The answer, of course, is to get to the other side, proving the old adage, it's always yellower on the other side of the street. This hawk is ashamed of itself. Of course, it is the breadwinner, and its children have to eat, but I think it's ashamed of the violent thought it's having about tearing apart an innocent little sparrow that's hopping cheerfully on the courtyard below. The family that gathers for meals together and laughs together stays together. But you know, married life isn't always perfect. These next three birds were at Terry Trueblood Lake, and you are going to envy their flexibility. Oh, to be young and limber again. Okay, so let's say goodbye to birds and move on to very different kinds of creatures. This frog is sitting in a footprint. Schools of fish swarm all summer at the Melrose Pond, just down the road. It's about 5-6 blocks from here. And these fish are really big. You see these big, dark, moving clusters of them here and there, all over the pond. Another place to see masses of creatures is all around a pond at Hunter's Run in Steve Rowe's neighborhood. There are frogs there by the dozens, and they squeak when they hear you coming and leap into the pond. The frogs, not you. And speaking of frogs, now you see it. Now you don't. Can you find it on this milkweed leaf? That's how small that frog was. I'm always fascinated by the elegant decorations on ordinary turtle shells. It's not a huge step to go from tiny frogs and turtles to insects. Birds do not have the corner on picturesque perching. Insects are masters of it. And this monarch was perching on a zinnia in our own garden lane, as was this painted lady butterfly. This grasshopper has chosen a wonderfully complementary color to land on. These 4 bees are partying on dandelion wine. I was only taking a close-up of this mushroom, and I didn't see what was sitting on that grass blade over it until I looked at the photo on the computer. You can see how tiny it was. This is called a lace wing. And then, not long after that, I saw a green version of the same insect on wallpaper inside the George building. You can see why this is called a white satin moth. It was on the vertical tread of a step just outside the spring building. It's so furry, you'd almost like to pet it. And what isn't cute about a ladybug? Until they invade your house and raise a stink if you swat them. This is not a fuzzy bunny rabbit painted in Hawkeye colors. This is a bumblebee up close. I felt a little bit voyeuristic spying on these mayflies, mating on an oak knoll window pane. They yelled at me, "Get lost, lady, this is our first intimate moment." And, we might add, our last. This praying mantis was staring me down from a zinnia in the garden lane. All right, so those are creatures. Let's look at plants. And we will start with plant posers. Now, you've seen those comedians on TV who can impersonate just about anyone. Well, if you look closely, you can see all around you the Robin Williamses of the plant world. Here we see 2 leaves teaming up to impersonate a butterfly. This next twig looks like a creature who's evolved to live at the bottom of the ocean, as does this one. This is in water, actually, but it is a twig. And here are 2 leaves and a twig trying to be some sort of lobster. An origami crane. And you decide whether this pin oak leaf is impersonating a horse or a dog. And here's another ambiguous quadruped. Have you ever seen a water bird called a cormorant? This locust pod is trying its best to show you what one looks like. Let's see. This is a bark impersonating a prehistoric bird. A walnut shell as a ceremonial mask. And does this remind you of anything? I see a young eagle soaring against a granite gray sky. I think it's just a twig or seed on a sidewalk. And now, do you see an old tattered sleeve with a creepy cadaverous hand holding a cigarette? And finally, a twig tightrope walker. So, these plant posers lead us to the next category, which is wood. Because I'm very taken with the patterns and textures of wood, especially the varieties of bark. This piece of birch bark, lit by sunlight, was in the pond south of Willow Creek Park. And if you've walked down George Street in the summertime, you've seen all shapes and sizes of this sycamore bark lying in the grass. And then, of course, there's that very venerable old bark. And also, what's inside the bark is intriguing. That's the naked trunk that ended up as a telephone pole on Benton Street. And I think that the inside of this old stump looks like it's made of silk. This is not a wall of the Grand Canyon. It's just a decayed tree trunk at the Melrose Pond. I also love how spooky wood can be. This log is giving you the evil eye. And this tree, we like to get those tentacles on you. If your name is Hansel or Gretel, you don't want to venture into this dark forest. You don't know what you'll encounter. Come to me, my pretty. Don't do it. If you do, here is what will greet you. This spooky hollow tree is in a ravine behind one university place, by the way. So let's run out into the sunlight and enjoy the beauty of leaves. Now, for years in the autumn, I used to look for perfect red and yellow leaves on the ground to press and then later paste into letters and cards, and there's no doubt that autumn leaves are spectacular. But then I started noticing flawed leaves. The ones that had been visited by insects or mold, or had fallen before completing the autumn change of color, and I found them more interesting and sometimes even prettier than the perfect ones. So here are some examples, and see if you don't agree that imperfect leaves are striking. I love that little squiggly green decoration on that pin oak leaf. And this reminds me, and maybe it'll remind you too, of the soft pink and spotted belly of a pug dog. The sycamore leaf looks sugar-coated. And then there are leaves that contrast dramatically with their surroundings. This little branch is underwater. And this next leaf aimed to fall on this coleus to give itself an attractive frame. Now, I spotted this next leaf very recently on the sidewalk just outside the Central building after a rain. Raindrops had turned it into a bejeweled brooch. And I'll show it to you a little closer up so you can see how the raindrops are magnifying the textures of the leaf. And I just love the bright orange against the green grass with the sunlight. And I'm often stunned by the sheer numbers of fallen leaves in the autumn. And here are some more impersonators. Leaves are great mimics. Here is a leaf posing as a valentine. And another. And And this one is even decorated. You could give it to your beloved. And speaking of love, this lily pad is terribly heartbroken. Its love is not reciprocated. In fact, its old love is taken up with someone else. There's a definite flirtation going on here. They're laughing away at each other's jokes. And this is a lily pad cocktail party. Everyone's talking, but is anyone really listening? This poor leaf is sinking fast. Help! Somebody save me. Now this is ginkgo upholstery and carpeting. Call Randy's if you'd like to redecorate your apartment in this motif. So let's move on to flowers. Is there anything so glorious as the blue of blue morning glories? Or the flowering trees, excuse me, of April. And then there are those flowers that are just a little out of this world. This is a close-up of a dahlia. And these are appropriately called night sky petunias, what you might see from an observatory. This is called prairie smoke. And here it is closer up. This is growing in our garden lane for the last 2 or 3 summers. It's finished blooming, and this is what's left, bejeweled by raindrops. You remember the lonely little petunia in the onion patch? Well, here is the lonely little coneflower in the hydrangea patch. These lilies are exuberant over some great news. Did you hear? The new mulch has been delivered. What? The new mulch has been delivered? Hallelujah! And these curious oak knoll violas are checking out the newcomer. See, who is that woman? Does she live at one university place? No, I think she's a guest. No, she's that one who wanders all over the place with a camera, just a little off her rocker, bless her heart. I couldn't figure out why I like cosmos so much, and someone said it was because they're unpretentious. So now we come to my grand passion. Fungi, or fungi, or fungi, or fungi. However you say it, it's all fun. So let's start with their variety of colors. Sorry, that didn't come out very well on the screen, but it's a beautiful green to look at on the computer. Orange, southwestern colors, yellow, two-toned, lavender, brown, and of course, white. Mushrooms have wonderful textures and patterns. No two alike underneath. And I love the strange border of little circles all around the edges here. And the smooth skin popping out. And wouldn't you just like to pet this? It looks like the fur of a collie dog to me. This is not a glass sculpture like the ones Dale Chihuly made. This is the kind of transparent mushroom that probably inspired him. These mushrooms, for some reason, have horned into this patch of lily of the valley leaves. Is this stuff melting? And then there are so many shapes. course, mushrooms, like everything in nature, can be great impersonators. This is the fungi equivalent of burying someone in sand at the beach. This tree trunk is not sure it likes the sensation. A clamshell has found its way into this tree. Coral. Bullseyes. Dainty parasols. A geode broken open. A tulip. A tutu. A brain with a fly on it. I don't know if you can see the fly. It's a little teeny green fly in there among the grass, pieces of grass. And a baby elephant taking a nap. The singed pages of a mushroom book. And mushrooms also love to impersonate food. Of course, some of them are food, but this one looks to me like some kind of Mid-Eastern flatbread. Orange peel. Cookie filling. Cherry pie that was taken out of the oven just in time. And a delicious baked potato with butter. And when not impersonating food, mushrooms like to be disguised as people. These two 18th century mushrooms at the court of Louis XVI are courteously bowing to each other, not realizing that they will soon lose their heads. These are on a hillside waiting for an outdoor rock concert to begin. This one is rather shy and prefers to look on from the sidelines. This family is posing for their portrait. And here's the same family 3 days later, which in mushroom years is 70. And that really is the same family. Doesn't take long. These proud mushroom parents are posing with their toddler. And here, I don't know, either conjoined twins or perhaps owl eyes. The next one shows that there is no age limit on romance. Rodin's The Kiss, this is not. But I always say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. All right, so we took a side road to fungi, but let's go back to plants. This grass waves against the Spring Street building wall facing Benton Street. Probably you've seen it as you've walked down the street there. Here we have some fireworks. This vine was trying to turn itself into a French braid. And now we start to blur the distinction between nature and abstract art. Ending up with a previously undiscovered Jackson Pollock at Terry Trueblood Recreation Area, worth $32,645,000 if sold at auction. We mustn't leave out the seeds from which all of these flora spring. And I love how milkweed is so tight and compact and silky. And surprise! Lucy Luxemburg tells me that these are called teasels, and I love them just for the name, T-E-A-S-E-L, teasel. This is a water lily seed pod at the Amana Lily Pond. And I think red is so striking in nature. Even beautiful on these treacherous, honey locust thorns. And I love this brave little red autumn maple at the Coralville Wetlands Park. Usually civilization overwhelms nature, but this ghost telephone pole illustrates the opposite. I like how the sunlight illuminates these green reeds and how the sun struggles to be seen on an overcast day. This is Terry Trueblood Lake at dusk. And just as we took the time to admire fungi, let's not underestimate the attractions of slime. This beautiful blue-green scum was at the Waterworks Park. This green scum was on the Terry Trueblood Lake. And here's some picturesque brown scum on the Iowa River. And does this remind you of the swirl on a Starbucks latte? I don't recommend drinking this, though. So before we put this slideshow to bed and look at the night sky, let's think about the change of seasons here in Iowa. Of course, everyone loves spring and the bounty of summer and the colors of autumn. But let's especially remember the spectacular winter of 2018-2019 that we enjoyed and wished would never end, that we thought might not ever end, and let's hope we're not repeating that situation. Snow and ice provide lots of photo opportunities. And the best part of that winter, and this one now, is that we here at Oak Knoll can enjoy it from indoors through windows. But we have to admit at times that winter is beautiful. These ice pods, I should say, encased the weeds at the shore of Terry Trueblood Lake. And there were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all along the shore. This tangle of large driftwood was caught among columns by the Iowa River Power Company. Now, these next three are photos that I've stuck in from pictures I took during a flight over the Austrian Alps. Just kidding. These are the George Street Alps outside the Spring Building, taken from a fifth-floor window. It seems that everywhere in nature there are impersonators. Here we have snow impersonating coral, ice impersonating a collar, and a hat. This pond ice is impersonating mosaic tiles. Wouldn't that look nice on the bathroom floor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take it. And here is an ice bullseye on the Iowa River. So we started this presentation with morning. Let's end it by saying goodbye to the day.
Okay, just an aside here. As I mentioned when I gave this presentation in the Haydn room, I can't resist what I called jet trails and what the wind and the light do to them. But I mistakenly maligned them as consisting of jet fuel polluting the air. And I had felt guilty for loving them so much. But I'm happy to say that I was wrong. These are called contrails, and they consist of ice crystals that do not pollute the air. So now I can love them guilt-free. And dusk brings out the best in these contrails. So here they're caught crisscrossing the skies in the evening light.
Oops. There. And here the wind has made squiggles of them. This sunset looks a lot like the sunrise we saw at the very beginning of this program. I think these jet trails look defiant. And that's from my balcony. And sometimes in evening light, it can look like an abstract painting. And wow. And then there's the effect of evening light on clouds. And finally, the sun sets. And the moon rises. There's the moon rising very close to where that other one set behind the red ball. And it gets dark. And darker, and a little bit mysterious. I think it's possible that they may find a way to put this on the Oaknell app. I'm not sure where. I think what they'll do is upload the PowerPoint and synchronize it maybe with my talking. So you may be able to find that at some point. Maybe we can put it in the weekly memo when it actually happens. So you know someone who couldn't come, or you want to see any particular slides again. And I will say that if you watch it on your computer, the colors are better. Not to apologize, but it's because it's smaller. When you make it so big, it loses some of that color. Okay, thank you for coming.